This is a guy that, I mean, this guy was hated on from the minute he was drafted. From just the national media, I felt like it was a poor pick, and that had nothing to do with him. James Robinson had come off of a very good season, rookie season, undrafted, and then they draft him, and they were like, okay, we got Trevor Lawrence's buddy, and they were like, and everyone was like, wait a minute, you got like a lot of holes on this roster. Running back is the opposite of a hole. Like, that was maybe the one position where you look at the roster and you're like, they're good there. Maybe get all line. Maybe get defense. Maybe get a wide receiver. And they're like, let's get a running back. And then he ends up getting hurt. Misses all of last season. Finally, I believe he played in the preseason. Week 2 of the preseason this year. But let's talk about what we think he will do in this offense. Because it's a player that he's been talked about a lot, and this is someone that I looked at. I really wanted the Ravens to draft him because I felt like they would be able to use him as a pass catcher. Line him up at wide receiver, line him up in the slot, line him up at running back, throw him on routes, and just get him the ball in space. And now that's exactly what the Jacksonville Jaguars are talking about doing with him this year. And I feel like he could actually be, I feel like he's going to be the weapon of this entire Jags offense. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars, we clown on them. I think they made the legitimate worst sports. This is including Kyle Singler. This is including Timofey Mozgov. The worst signing in sports in the last decade. Just horrendous. When they gave Christian Kirk, a guy who's never had a 1,000-yard season, they paid this dude like $20+ million a year, and they're like, yeah, this guy was wide receiver 3, maybe wide receiver 4 for the Cardinals last year. That's the guy we want. Also, superstar Zay Jones. These are the guys we're bringing Trevor Lawrence. And you're like, what? They are not option 1. It's going to, in my opinion, be like Alvin Kamara in this offense is going to be Travis Etienne. That's my take on it, and I think it's actually going to work pretty well. I've come around on this Jacksonville Jaguars offense. Now, I will say, I was tired of hearing Chris Collinsworth in the Hall of Fame game talk over and over about, this team's just like the Bengals. This is the team everyone's sleeping on coming into the year. This is the team that's going to really surprise a lot of people, Super Bowl type of thing. And I was like, whoa, okay, Chris Collinsworth. I liked, the Travis Etienne's coming back. But stop talking about how they're going to be the Bengals and surprising everyone. And they're like, well, it's because Trevor Lawrence got injured and, Trevor Lawrence didn't win a lot his rookie year. Just because you don't win a lot your rookie year and you're a number 1 overall pick doesn't mean you're Peyton Manning. All right? They didn't go out and get Jamar Chase. All right, this is very different situations, Chris Collinsworth. So stop talking about how this is the sneakiest team in the NFL as a super surprise, everyone. It's not a great roster, but Travis Etienne could make them watchable.
I mean, I liked Travis Etienne a lot coming out of college, coming out of Clemson. Now, a couple things that are concerning, I think, are probably coming off of an ACL, and he had 800 touches in college. That is a lot of touches in college ball. So I think that's probably where, in terms of my concerns about him, probably end. Maybe we can talk about, the other pieces on that offense. But in terms of a backfield, yeah, that's a great strength. They definitely have a strength there. I mean, they have a true guy in Travis Etienne that can come out, flex out to the slot. And they're probably going to do that quite a bit. They're going to use him as a receiver out of the backfield. They're going to use him as a gadget piece. And you have a guy that's a great in-between the tackles runner and hopefully will be used there a lot more than Travis Etienne will, just because if you use James Robinson in between the tackles and you save Travis's, you save some touches from him, you saved him getting banged up a little bit, I think that'll go a long way. I think that this offense this running back room could look a lot similar to how Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara did in New Orleans. I think it could be very similar. I don't think they're the same caliber players. I mean, Travis Etienne, Kamara is definitely better. But I like James Robinson a lot. I don't think they're quite on that level, but I think that the way that they could use him could be very similar. When I watched Travis Etienne at Clemson, the ability, his balance is absurd, dude. And it reminds me of Alvin Kamara a little bit. And you see him break a bunch of tackles. He's not breaking tackles stiff arming guys and running guys over. I mean, he's going to do it from time to time, but he's breaking him because they don't get him clean because he's bouncing around and falling forward, and then he catches his feet and he ends up catching up and like ends up having like that second win, and then all of a sudden he's out ahead of everyone because he got tripped up, but he didn't go down. So you see that a lot when you start watching him as a receiver. Early on at Clemson, he wasn't really used there too much. Only 17 receptions over his first 2 seasons. Then his next two, the next one he goes 37 receptions and then 48 receptions. He has over 1,000 combined yards and 6 touchdowns in those last 2 seasons. So he was an extremely effective weapon out of the backfield once he kind of got going there and got comfortable in that regard. So it's interesting, man. I definitely didn't like the pick either. I thought it was a really stupid pick. But he's probably going to look really good. So I think we do have to bring that up when we talk about him. And I mean, I like for a security blanket, I think it's a great person to have with Trevor Lawrence. So like, it's a good pairing, but I think it's always going to be one of those picks where it's like, and you even see this with Zeke, dude, because Zeke went before Ramsey, where it's like, oh, the Cowboys screwed up. And like Zeke's had a good career. Like Zeke has, so it kind of reminds me a little bit of that of like, oh, they didn't pick the right guy. Like they didn't pick the right position. Even if he's good, it'll like be kind of taken against him. But in terms of a guy for fantasy, dude, Etienne could be sick. He could be amazing this year because they're probably going to be down a lot in games, and he's probably going to have a ton of receptions. So
people talk about, oh, this guy's going to be the next DeAndre Swift. I never hear Travis Etienne. When people say, oh, this guy's going to be the next DeAndre Swift, they bring up the most random players. They're like, oh, yeah, this guy. And it'll be like some backup running back on some random team. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Travis Etienne, I think, is a better running back, period, than DeAndre Swift. I think he's a better pass catcher, period, than DeAndre Swift. He's got a better quarterback than DeAndre Swift. The only thing he doesn't have is an offensive line. But his value, when you're looking at him from a fantasy standpoint, it's catching the football. And, oh, does he have any chemistry with his quarterback? I don't know. Did they win a national championship together in college? I think so. Were they like the most deadly duo in college when they played together? Yes. That's why they drafted him. I know Urban Meyer was the coach back then, and Urban Meyer, this dude was doing some weird stuff. And I'm not even talking about kicking people. This dude was like, we're bringing in Carlos Hyde. He's going to be kind of our scat back. We're going to be passing it to him. And it was like, Carlos Hyde? This dude hasn't been good since he was playing at Ohio State. Like, what are you talking about? Why is that the guy that you're like, game changer? Like, okay, mister. Now everybody's out of him. Like, what did you think? Everyone sucked? No one you brought in Carlos Hyde. You thought you were playing against, Rutgers? Travis Etienne has played against top-tier competition, and he's performed against that competition. He's going to be really scary out of the backfield. And I think he's going to have a lot of games where it's like 10 catches, 80 yards, touchdown. They may lose by 38 points. But for fantasy, I think he's a very good draft. I think, especially in Dynasty, would love to have him. But Travis Etienne, I think he's going to look really good this year. But that doesn't mean the pick was good. At the same time, like,
it's hard though. Because like you can say that, but it's like if you pick a guy and he's good, it's hard to say the pick isn't good. Like I'm a strong believer in that because like people get mad like, oh, this team shouldn't have done this. This team there was this guy after him. It's like, yeah, but that guy worked for this team. So I still think it's hard. The problem is that you taking a running back early. I have a bigger problem with paying running backs though than drafting them early, but I think it's just because you look at the team, you're like, dude, is Trevor Lawrence gonna live to like through his career in Jacksonville? And then
people talk about the Jaguar or the Bears, and they're like, oh, Justin Fields has no offensive line. The Jaguars are just as bad. Like, at least they extended their left tackle, I believe, or maybe it was their right tackle. But other than that, they're like, they're going out there with some piss poor offensive line play. It's gonna be interesting. But Matt, I think that's going to do it for tonight's stream. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I don't think so. I think that's probably all I got, but that was some fun topics here tonight.
Yeah, guys, let us know in your takes, top 5 running backs, top 5 front sevens, ETN, how you think he's going to perform, and are the Raiders contenders We're trying to post all of these clips, within the next couple of days, every single time. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. We stream Monday through Friday. We try to stream, typically not during the Padres game. Sometimes it's before, sometimes it's after. But thank you so much for coming through. And we'll see all of you again next time.